And the next sheriff we'll have up is Sheriff Dean Wilson from Del Norte County, California.
All right, Dean, let's go, baby. Come on.
Too many times, you know. You've been here too many times.
I know I have.
Well, first of all, I want to thank you all for showing up. I'm sure you probably could have figured out something better to do on a Saturday than come listen to a bunch of sheriffs. But I want to thank you for coming. You know, we have, they often say, what constitutional sheriff, what are you? Well, it took me a while to get there. It didn't happen overnight. You know, I took my first oath of office back in 1979 when I stepped into the job of law enforcement. Took my second real one in 2003 when I took the office of sheriff. And not really understanding the Constitution, its full implications, and exactly what it meant. Not understanding the Constitution was not only part of the problem, because all I did is what I had done all my career: enforce the law, put bad people in jail, and when I became sheriff, make sure I kept them in jail, because the jails were now my responsibility. And a lot of people ask me, well, sheriff, you know, constitutional sheriff, I see you up there, you're talking about all these issues. Well, why? Why are you going out? Shouldn't you just be arresting bad guys, keeping the community safe? That's your job. That's what we elected you for. That's what you ought to be doing. You shouldn't be up here talking about these issues. Well, that's the way I thought for a long time. Until I ran down to Sacramento a bunch of times and I found out that we're in real trouble in California. Talked to my friends up here, John Bishop in Curry County and Gill and other sheriffs in the southern end of Oregon, these rural counties, and find out the trouble's there too. They're just, unfortunately, just a little bit ahead of us right now. But we're all heading in the same direction. And what's the cause? We are. What I came to realize not too long ago is we're the problem. But we're also the solution to the problem. Because government is formed from us. It derives its power from what? The consent of the governed. Have you consented? No. Did you think this is what you wanted? No. Then why? The question is why?
Why our silence?
Why has it gone so awry when it belongs to you and to me? Because we have been negligent in our duties as citizens.
Amen to that.
The federal government was never intended to be the be-all and end-all. It was enumerated and limited in its powers. The Constitution says so. Unfortunately, like many, and myself included for many years, never read the darn thing, took an oath of office, and never studied it. You know, you can do a lot of things wrong when you don't know what it's about. All you have to do is look at what's coming out of our capitals in any state in the Union.
Amen.
You know, Patrick Henry said it, and I have the quote. I gave this little speech there, or James Madison, I said, he warned us, he says, do not separate text from historical background. For if you do, you will have perverted and subverted the Constitution, which can only end in a distorted, bastardized form of an illegitimate government. Now, Madison knows because, you know, he had something to do with actually writing that thing down. They knew we would mess up. They told us so. But they also had the faith and the belief that when we went awry, that we would fix it. And they gave us the means to do so. The right to abolish and amend our government in its form and function if it ceases to serve the people. So many of us sit at this crossroads like I do. What do? I can go back to doing what I did, throwing people in jail, holding them, and don't worry about the rest. But I can't, because there's this oath of office I took, that I swore to defend and support the Constitution of the United States. And when I took that oath, the responsibility came to the sheriff. Now, I chose this job. I ran for it, of all things. And then you caught the tiger, and now you got to do with it. But it's to defend those inalienable rights. That's what we're sworn to do as government. Government exists for one function only. One. And that is to defend your liberty. Your life, your liberty, and your pursuit of happiness. We have gone astray. We have lost that perception. We have lost that duty. And as sheriff, I've sworn an oath to protect it. So for me and mine, in my house, we will follow the God and the Constitution.
All right.
We will only defend through the Constitution. Because unfortunately, I have noticed far too often that the legislature does not pass things through the screen of constitutionality. So many times we see laws that have been enacted, policies and regulations that absolutely step on our life, our liberty, and our pursuit of happiness. So as sheriff, I will not support any law, any policy, any regulation that is against the Constitution in my county. Somebody asked me, well, what gives you that authority, Sheriff? I said, well, the people do. Yeah. Because they elected me. And if they don't like the way I do it, they can unelect me. You know, he said, well, Joe Arpaio has a lot of power, and we just got to listen to Joe here just a little while back. So Joe Arpaio has a lot of power, and he just seems like he can arbitrarily decide what he's going to enforce and what he's not going to enforce, and he's told not to, and he does it anyway. I said, well, that's because that's the power of the sheriff. The power of the sheriff rests within the executive branch. We have the same power that the president has, and he can't tell us what to do either.
All right.
But we're often asked, and as we get to this point, is that the federal government was never supposed to be the end-all. Local government is where the power was supposed to rest. Local government is where the power was supposed to be, because it affects, and it is where the people have the most influence and effect in their lives. Somebody in Washington, D.C., or in Sacramento for me, Salem in Oregon, someone up there does not come down here and knock on your door and make sure that your crime is responded to, that the issues that you're dealt with, that your peace, freedom, liberty, and safety are being dealt with here in your county. They don't. Local government does. We educate children, hopefully, sometimes poorly. We make sure that law enforcement services are provided. But those services at the local level is where the rubber meets the road, and should have the most influence and effect in your life. And that's where the most power should be. It should not rest in the federal hands in Washington, D.C., or under your state capital. It should rest in your hands. Your boards, your elected bodies that you have in your community should have the most influence and effect in your life, and also should have the most power to do what is necessary to make sure that they are educating the children the way we want them to be, that the law enforcement is providing the service that you need. But what's happening is we're being denied that. You've heard horror stories. I could give you my own. but I'd bore you with those. You know, we talked to a number of sheriffs at this last convention. Most of them said they wanted to cry or shoot themselves after we got through talking. They were so depressed because of the stories that they hear. But what can we do? Well, we know what we need to do. You know, the revolution, they call it the American Revolution, but you know, it's kind of a misnomer because it was British against British. We were all British citizens at the time. But when we kicked the other British out and formed our own union, you know, we did so because of the tyrannies that were being oppressed. But that revolution, when you think of it, you think, oh, we rose up. You know how few of us rose up? Very few. Less than 30% of those that were there actually rose up and were actually against the British at the time. Most wanted to stay, most didn't. Other ones just wanted to be left alone. And out of those, only a fraction of those, about 15%, actually went and did war, went to battle. Revolutions, like anything, are started and completed and fulfilled because of the commitment of individuals, not in mass, but in small numbers that can make a huge difference. And if you don't believe that, you weren't paying attention in 2010 when the Tea Party rocked this world by turning over all those states in the red states. And if you're not looking, it's going to happen in 2012. We are going to rock this world with what is going to be seen, because they say the Tea Party's gone away, but I swear you, it hasn't. It's just gotten smarter, better, and more prepared. And what's going to happen in 2012 is going to make 2010 look like a Tea Party. But what do we need to change is we need to take back our government. And the only way you take back your government is to ensure that A, you get involved, that you participate, that you don't sit back, that you walk streets, you make phone calls, you find candidates, you run yourself, and you take over those local departments and those local committees and those local agencies that have served and serve your public, whether it's your school board, your commissions, your committees, your board of supervisors, your city councils. You serve, you put people in that represent your values. The bottom line is we get what we deserve. If we sit back and do nothing, we get what we deserve. Now we need your help. As sheriffs, we cannot do what needs to be done without it. We have to have communities stand up. We have to have people that are self-sufficient. We have to have people that are aware and attuned. But we also have people to get involved. And we need your help in that. And I'll close with one of my favorite quotes of all time. And this was what Ronald Reagan once said. He said, "Freedom is never more than one generation away from extinction. We didn't pass it to our children in the bloodstream. It was fought for, protected, and handed to them to do the same. And if not, one day, we will spend our sunset years telling our children and our children's children of what it was once like in the United States when men are free." So what will you do for freedom? What are you going to do between now and, 52 days? Are you going to do something? Are you going to get involved? Are you going to stand up? Are you going to work? Are you going to fight for that freedom? Or will you stand? Or will you sit? Will you sit by and allow your freedoms, your liberties, and your pursuit of happiness to be dictated by somebody else? Or will you take it on yourself because it belongs to you? So take it back. God bless America.
Sheriff Dean Wilson. Thank you.